Would you like to sublimate a photograph onto canvas? That's what we're going to do today. So we are going to take a family photo, my family photo, and we are going to sublimate that onto canvas. So like the tightly wrapped canvas around frames that you find at the craft store. So for today's project, we're gonna go over 5 different steps, easy steps, but there's a few things that you have to know because the canvas that we're using is not sublimation blanks. These are just regular canvas that you would find at the craft store. So there's a few things that you're going to need to do and understand about this process so that you get the best possible result. Okay, so step number 1, let's collect our materials. We need a number of different things to do this project, but for the most part, it's the normal sublimation items. However, there is one kind of surprise item that you're absolutely going to have if you want to pull this off. Okay, so for our materials, first off, we're going to have a 9.5 by 9.5 canvas, or that's the size I'm using today. You can use any size that you would like, but this is the size that I'm going to be using. And then we also have to have our sublimation paper. I'm going to be using a fabric ruler to make sure that I have everything centered the way it needs to be. I'm using a protective covering, which is parchment paper. You can also use butcher paper, a paper trimmer, and then I have my heat tape and I have my lint roller. Okay, so in addition to all of these things, there is that one more thing that you're going to need to make this project successful, but it's okay because don't fret, there's no expense to it. It's something you already own. We all have them, but it's absolutely critical to making this work. And so I'm just gonna ask you to hold on for just a moment. We're gonna run through a couple of more things in these steps, and then I'm going to share that with you when we actually press the project. Okay, for step number 2, this is all about design, and you can be as simple or as complex as you want to be. For my project, I did add a little pattern and I added some text over my image, but you don't have to do any of that. You can literally just use your photograph. So you want to go to a tool like Canva. And once you get into Canva, and it's canva.com, super simple, absolutely free. You can do this for free. There is a paid version, but you don't need it for this unless you want to get really fancy. But then what you want to do is you want to bring in or upload your photograph. You'll put it onto an 8.5 by 11 sheet. If I'm using a square design, I like to have a square template so I know what paper is excess on my sheet when I print it. So I just grab a square and overlay it to the area of the sheet that I'm actually going to use, and that keeps my design in that area. Next, you can add patterns and text, and there are free patterns available in Canva. Overlay your family photo onto that. This is just drag and drop. And when we're all done with our design, we just need to flip our image and we're ready to print. I do want to add that if you put text on your graphic, you're going to need to download it to your computer and then re-upload it as a JPEG so that you can flip the entire design at one time. Now, when you get to printing, it's important, super important, put important above this. You go through the dialog box. You want to make sure that you are choosing 100% for scale. You don't want it to scale down your image. You also want to choose for best quality. On my printer, what that means is that you're going to be able to select photo as the type, like photo, and I'm putting it on matte paper because that's what my sublimation paper is. So a photograph on matte paper, and it's automatically going to take that to best. If you do not do this, guys, hear this, if you do not do this, that printer's gonna hold back all of that ink and you're not going to get a pretty, like a saturated sublimation print. So you wanna make sure that you're getting best quality print. So once you get that, let's go ahead and print that off. Okay, so for step number 3, we are going to prep our canvas. And what that means is that we're going to use a lint roller and we're going to clean our canvas, and then we are going to take it over and press it for about 10 seconds. And the reason that we're doing this is we want to remove any moisture from that canvas so that it attaches, or the ink attaches to it as well as possible. So step number 4, we are going to now prep our print. So we have this print off, we have everything set up, sized the way that it should be, but now we need to trim it down, and then we need to get it ready for placing on the canvas. So we're going to trim all of the corners and all of the edges, and then we're going to use heat tape and attach it to our canvas, making sure to measure all of the corners. Okay, so now it's time for that surprise something I told you that you're going to need that you might not necessarily need for a normal sublimation project, and it's okay, you have it in your house, it's not anything special. You're going to need a towel. Depending on the size of your canvas, you need a towel, or I mean, if you have a lot of pressing mats or something around, then you could probably a pressing pillow, you could use that. But basically you have a space between this canvas and your pressing mat, whatever you're putting that on, and you need to fill that space. Otherwise, you're not going to get the right amount of pressure and you're not going to get the heat absorption that you need. So we need a towel. Okay, so let's go through this process, and first of all, we are going to do a craft fail. Yes, we are. So I'm going to show you how it doesn't turn out the way that it should, and then I'm going to show you how it does turn out the way that it should. So let's go ahead and press. Okay, so one thing I do want to point out about this project is the photography is probably best if you turn it black and white, because we are sublimating onto a surface that is not a true like sublimation blank. It's not that perfect poly blend for sublimation. So the print is going to come out looking weathered or aged. And it actually, I think it looks beautiful this way, but I just want to warn you, so you might not want to get like something with tons of color, or you may, and then the process is going to like dull that out a little bit. Okay, so let's have a look at mine. Okay, so now we have the canvas on the heat press. And press. Okay. Here we go. And so now this is my favorite part. Okay, and so now for the moment of truth. And if you look at this, you can see through the paper. There's me right there. Okay, so let's just peel this off and see how she did. And I would call that a craft fail. Okay, so that was an epic fail, or at least I call it an epic fail. It did, most of the color did not go over onto the canvas. So we are going to do this a second time. We're going to do this again, and we are going to change up a few things, including pressure and duration and temperature. So we're going to move this up to 400 degrees. We're going to move up our seconds, and we are going to put additional pressure on it. Okay, so let's have a look at it the second time. All right, better, much better. I knew it would give us that weathered look, which I don't mind, I kind of like, but much better. 400 degrees for the full time. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed learning how to apply photography to canvas using sublimation, and I hope that you will stick around and check out some of my other sublimation projects. I will see you in the next one.